Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 100x live sessions series. Over the last few weeks, we've been doing multiple of these series, and one of the segments which we've catered to has been specifically speaking with the heads of multiple various incubation centers across India. And today, I'm delighted to have Ramesh Loganathan, Professor of Co-Innovation at IIIT Hyderabad, Vijay Talele, CEO of COEP's Bhau Institute, and Dr. Puran Singh, faculty in charge at IIIT Mandi Catalyst. Thank you all for taking the time out and welcome you all for this live show. And looking forward to our discussion points. So,
thank you.
Just to begin, let me set the context by what we've been doing at 100x with incubation centers. We at 100x we've established a unique relationship with Indian incubation centers, majority of which are linked with universities and other centers of excellence. Our mission is to support them and enable their innovation through our seed investments. We've gone ahead and invested in 20 startups till date, and our fund thesis is sector agnostic. We seek to provide insights and information from incubators to entrepreneurs across the country. And thus, as a part of our 100x.vc live sessions, we recognize the community's accomplishments and share their stories. So in today's discussion, the topic is stories from India's startup schools. And I'll begin with Ramesh, sir. You've been running an incubation center which has been there for a very long time and seen the various stages of how the ecosystem has evolved. And for our audience, which is comprising of large scale and mid-size and again MVP and early stage companies, I would love to understand what you're doing, what you've been doing at IIIT, what's the thesis over there, what are the kind of programs, a very quick overview for the audience.
Sure, Shashank. Thank you for having me here. So IIIT's incubator, it's called Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, CIE. So CIE is about little more than 12 years old now, and we've had, first 3-4 years been just in figuring out the whole thing. So I think we started really, I would say, doing something, creating an impact maybe from 12 or maybe 13 onwards. And by 2014, we had almost like 70 startups in the incubator, and at that time, probably the largest incubator in the country. And our incubator is the reason T-Hub has come up. We have another incubator on campus, which is T-Hub, which is set up by the government, and we are just a founding institute. We help structure it, but once it started operations, it's independent, run independently. And it's downstream to us. They work with little later stage startups. And so we focus on early stage and technology-led innovation. Aspirationally, we would like every startup to be an emerging technology area. There's AI or like smart manufacturing or medtech or any of the emerging tech areas in different domains. But not all startups are using technology at that level. So today we have of the 100 odd startups that's currently in the incubator, maybe around 40 or so would fit that bill of being kind of in the emerging tech space. So we have the base incubation, which is where startups just come, most early stage startups, they come start working from the space, and we do a lot of events. We have of course usual talks and such, the mentors, we have structured mentoring programs, what we call micro accelerators, and then the usual stuff that incubators do. In addition, we have the accelerators, which are 6-month, very, very deep programs, very intense. We get about anywhere from 70 to 100 applications, and every cohort has maybe 2 or 3 startups max. So these are very promising startup, very, very, very early stage. They probably have a prototype. In some cases, maybe they've taken it to some customers, but most cases they haven't even got to customers yet. So that's something we run. We run 3 cohorts a year for deep tech and 3 more cohorts for mid tech. And then we also invest. Because we use government funds for it. The incubator itself is now fully self-supporting. So all the government funds are over because it's 12 years now. The main incubator is self-supporting financially. But for investments, we have some money that's come back from startups, but we still depend on government, AAAS and such government scheme for the investment itself. We do invest in startups, very small. We do 5 to 10 lakhs in deep tech startups that work with research. Primarily, our preference is startups that work with research. So many of our programs, research is at the core of what we do. trying to connect research with startups and finding startups in our research areas. We also have a translation lab called Product Lab, which is an engineering group, not a research group, which takes research and creates startups out of research. So it's a 12 to 18-month program to translate, understand, define a market product, prototype it, kind of validate, and along the way find an entrepreneur who will also be part of the team, and then eventually hive it off as a startup. So that's something we have started. So it moves in the early stage space, either connecting startups with research or directly creating startups from research. That's what we do at IIIT.
That's wonderful. Okay, thank you so much, Ashwin. We'll come back to the type of startups and founders during the course of our discussion. I would love to understand the stories behind some of the founders over there. Vijay, sir, yours is an incubation which recently started off and funded by the Department of Science and Technology. Would love to understand what are the theses you're running over there and the type of startups you're dealing with, and how are you helping the local Pune ecosystem, which has been coming up for quite some time for now.
Sure. So COEP, College of Engineering Pune, is one of the oldest engineering institute, and we have started a incubator out there, which is called COEP's Bhau Institute of Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and Leadership. And this basically incubator, the concept came to in the founder's mind about 8 or 9 years back. But we were building up the incubator, and we had started the courses in COEP about entrepreneurship and innovation for a few years, and they are continuing now. And our incubator came up about 3 years back, and we also got a grant from Department of Science and Technology as a TBI grant, as a technology business incubator. In the under our incubator, we have startups which are right what Ramesh said. Similar to that, we also have a pre-incubation startups which are very early stage, right from the idea stage to the startups which come at a MVP stage and different during their journey of startup journey. The focus areas that we have at COEP's Bhau Institute is IoT, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, machine learning, AR, VR, healthcare technology. We also have a focus of healthcare technology, cyber security, and grassroots innovation. As a part of grassroots innovation and social entrepreneurship, we also have startups in edutech and agri-tech area. So coming back to the type of startups that we have student startups which are right from our COEP itself or from the Pune engineering colleges. We also have a program which is a virtual incubation program, wherein we support startups which are locally present. So we do have few startups from Gurgaon and from Amravati and Aurangabad and so on. While we also support startups from Mumbai also as on a virtual basis. So in addition to that, we have a physical infrastructure which is provided to startups. So we support startups right from the idea validation stage in the part of pre-incubation, how to validate their idea, get the problem statement, solution, competition, market size, help them to create a basic financial plan. So basically help them to understand the basics of business while they know the technology quite well. Also, we provide technology and business mentoring, even in technology, in case they need any support from the students or interns. We provide that support from the COEP itself or the close by engineering colleges. We also provide a mentoring. We have a dedicated mentors set up for a few startups as and when, or and as and when they require any specific support, we provide them mentor, or we provide them access to the industry network where they can get that support. In addition to that, we also help them in getting some funding. Like 100x VC is one of the early stage angel funding agency. Similarly, we connect with multiple other angel funding and seed funding agencies, also as well as the high network into HNIs who are ready to fund into the early stage investors. So we provide them that access to those funding. Also, we provide access to third party services. So over and all, it is basically a one stop kind of a shop for any person who has an idea and he wants to convert his idea into a business, any entrepreneur. So that's where a incubator like COEP Bhau Institute comes into picture.
Great, thank you so much. And we'll come back with the type of startups and few
Sure.
examples during the course of the discussion.
Right.
Dr. Puran Singh, it's been a while since we connected, but I remember visiting your campus way back in 2017, initial days of IIT Mandi, Catalyst, interacted with a few of your startups. And since then, I've heard IIT Mandi has gone ahead and incubated a large number of companies. Would love to understand what's been this evolution over the last few years, how IIT Mandi Catalyst has been identifying scalable opportunities or just good opportunities within the north region where you're located in Himachal.
Thanks, Shashank. So, as you said, we started back in 2017, and we are located in a hill valley in Himachal. It's a remote place. The connectivity can become sometimes an issue, and we were thinking, how do we make ourselves, relevant and attractive for startups? So, our experience has been with the kind of startups that have come to us, that startups which are looking to build their product at low cost. They, for them, this destination is perfect. We are at a place where we offer residential facility to the startups as well. They can, have the life of they have a nice crossover of a student's life and an entrepreneur's life. They can engage with the faculty and students at IIT Mandi and build their product out. A low cost, high end, quality infrastructure that they get access to. At the same time, you are away from large city problems of long commute to work, spending hours on going from home to work and back. Also high cost of living, so all of that is done away with. So in true sense, the lean startup can be built here in hills with IIT Mandi Catalyst. We are supported by DST. We host 3 programs from DST. We provide funding to the startups from the very early stage to the commercialization stage. In fact, for every intermediate stage of startups, there is funding available as well. However, we do not think ourselves as investors, because most of the times when we interact with the startup, they start negotiating on those things, and mostly they are interested in money, and we make it a point to convey to them that please do not think of us as an investor. We're not a funding agency. Please think of us as a friend, philosopher, guide. Uh, we have an ecosystem where you will find people who are genuinely interested in making the idea succeed. For funding, we will put you through to investors, and other places where you can raise money. But what you should really focus on is building your product at low cost, be it software or hardware, and we're sector agnostic. And the 75 startups that we've supported in the last 3 years, most of them, they come to the campus. They spend at least 3 months here. They build out their product, and they hit the market, commercialize. Some take more time, and we do this initial 3-month engagement, kind of a we think of it kind of a courtship period before we get married to them for a longer duration. So during this time, we figure out, get a feel of what the founders are like. Will it work out? Will they have the support from us? Will we be able to support them through the infrastructure or mentoring or networking that they would require, their idea would require? And if that works out well, then we put in more funds through the DST funded programs, state government funded programs. IIT Mandi has put together a fund as well. So it's a nice crossover of the intellectual world, where you have access to faculty, their intellectual prowess, infrastructure that is available in IIT Mandi, high-end infrastructure. At the same time, we bring in people from the industry, which provides a nice mix for an early stage idea to make progress.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Puran. And all of you have been doing amazing work, and the kind of experience, the plethora of experience of having nurtured these early stage companies and seeing the mistakes they've been making early on must have built out so many stories and a playbook for at your end to learn and constantly iterate and the wisdom you provide to your incoming startups, year on year. So starting with you, Ramesh, sir, talk a little more about the type of founders at your incubation centers and the support they've received. A few names, a few success stories, how they've evolved over the time. Would love to understand how their journey has been.
So, so our incubator is not focused on our students. Well, they're most welcome. Our incubator is focused more on startups that can work with our research. So that is our primary focus. So we have like maybe less than at any given point, maybe not even 10% would be our student founders. Maybe overall, maybe around 20% or little more than that, maybe alumni founders. Bulk of them are other startups. So given that, like to that extent, we are the founder profile is more a normal incubator, not necessarily an academic incubator. The bulk of them, I would say, are probably in the early career. They've been working for a few years. And when I say bulk, I mean relatively. Maybe 40-50% would be like less than 5 years, 5-7 years experience, early career. But then we see good number of people that are in the 15-20 years, kind of, they've done some good work, worked in some good places, and then like seen some good both markets as well as technology work, and then decided to start up. So it's a mix. If you look at the founder profile, they work elsewhere, they work in India. It's a complete mix. But by and large, especially, I mean, they would come to IIIT only if they're a tech startup. I mean, otherwise, there are other places they could go to as well. So by and large, the founders that come to us, startups that come to us, are tech startups. So I would say like at least 80% or more, the founders are themselves with a solid tech background. In some cases, they come from a domain or business background and have other tech in the team. So it's all over the place. And we've tried to profile founders' background, what kind of institution they come from, what kind of companies they worked in the past. We couldn't see any pattern. So they may be different disciplines, but primarily being in IT, regardless of what their education was in. And usual companies, there's some that come from technology product companies, and the equal number come from non-product companies as well. So there's no particular pattern in the founders, if that's what you're looking for.
So what you're trying to say is that it's open to all type, various backgrounds. You can come in. This is an open innovation center where the founders, whether they're from the institute or not, whether they're coming from an IT background or just fresh out of college from any college, can utilize the facilities and learn to scale and build up a solution for a product, particularly in the segments you're catering to. So great, that's insightful. Uh, Vijay sir, the kind of startups you've been interacting with, and over the last 3 years, while it's been initial stages, where have they reached? What are you seeing in terms of their roadmap? How are they interacting with the in terms of commercial viability? Some insights on those points.
Sure, sure. So at COEP Bhau Institute, we have mentored maybe almost close to 75 to 80 startups so far. And currently, there are about 60 active startups. As I told you before, like we have pre-incubation, which is mostly for student startups, which is right from idea to business plan preparation and getting starting on MVP preparation. So almost 25% of our startups are student startups from COEP itself, and the remaining 25% student startups are from other engineering colleges. So we have almost 50% of startups who are either student or just passed out students who want to become entrepreneurs. So they are at a very idea stage, and we help them to generate a business plan and validate their idea into business perspective and help them to create their MVP and product prototypes and everything. So naturally, they utilize COEP labs, they utilize COEP infrastructure, Bhau infrastructure, and everything. Coming back to, we have startups which are mid-career startups or those who have some experience in the industry like 5-6 years and even 15-20 years in the industry and come back. Like one of our focus area, as I said, told you about is cybersecurity, which is very niche area. And in that area, when you are looking for a startup, the student startups do not have that much visibility to look at the business perspective in cybersecurity space. So there, normally we have seen that a lot of mid-career startups are coming in who have experience in the cybersecurity space, worked in that industry, and want to do something on their own. So we do have a mix of about 50% are student startups, 50% out of remaining 50%, almost 25% will be like 0 to 5 years experience, and remaining 25 maybe 10 to 20 years experience in the industry. Coming back to the type of startup, this is a type of startups, but if you look at some examples of our startups, like a couple of them, student startups have actually scaled quite well. They are already in the revenue earning stage. Out of our 60 current active startups, close to about 25% startups are already revenue earning. Got their product ready, which is either a software product or a hardware product or a solution which they have taken it to the market. They have some customer traction and they are already earning revenue. Almost 5 to 7 of our startups have received funding, which is either a seed funding, angel funding, or one of our startups even had got to pre-series A level. So they have got almost couple of $2-3 million funding from the US based investors. So they and the startups are in the very at different stages of their career. Like many of them almost are at a stage where they are ready with the MVP and getting into the trying to get traction into the market. So that's what it
Got
is.
it.
But if you want to know about specific startups, we also have startups like who are in robotics. Like recently, yesterday only, one of our robotic startup, which was a COEP student startup, has developed a robot for COVID-19 hospitals, where that robot will basically deliver all the food as well as will be able to do the inspection using cameras on the robot and will be remotely monitored. Similarly, a lot of startups during this stage have pivoted their solutions for the COVID-19 also. So,
Got
and
it.
there are startups in healthcare. One of our healthcare startups has got BIRAC funding of 50 lakhs from Government of India, and
Mm-hmm.
he is working on a first aid kit for fractures, which is almost ready and patented product which can be taken to the market. He's almost ready with the product, just getting to the some certifications for manufacturing and then go to the market.
Excellent.
Another healthcare startup is working on varicose veins or the you get DVT, deep vein thrombosis, when you travel long distance in the flights or sitting on the offices for long distance, long time. So you get some DVT or the what do you call some uh, so say like your blood gets clogs. So that to remove that, basically it creates a moving walking movement, and that kind
Got it.
of a product they have made it. We have a healthcare another AI based startup which is into drones, which has actually been helping the it's a drone AI software. Basically, you can use any drone hardware, and it sits onto that hardware, and it supports or controls the multiple drones together remotely, and you can give commands to those drones. It is used for inventory control, large warehouses, inventory control. Even currently for the COVID-19 situation, they are helping to blood transfer or the even for spraying or thermal monitoring and all those things. So they have been selling those solutions all over the
Right.
world. So these are the different kind of a flavor of softwares. We do have agriculture software who is working on a agri-tech kind of a product, which is to measure the soil moisture, soil and your air moisture and humidity measurement for especially for a grape product or grape
Understood.
farm. So these are the
Understood.
flavor
Great.
of different startup that we have.
Great. Great. Dr. Puran Singh.
Thanks, Shashank. So I think a lot of what was spoken earlier applies in our case as well. About 20% startups from within IT Mandi. We are also a technology business incubator, pure play technology. We do not work with non-tech startups, and we get in terms of, if you profile the age of the founders, you have fresh out of college founders. We also see a lot of mid-career, as Vijay sir said, mid-career people, and our experience has been very interesting. Especially with the mid-career people who have spent 2-3 decades in the industry. They come in, they want to do a product. they need to, in a sense, rethink the whole thing. They think that they know the industry, they know everything about it, but starting a company is absolutely, a fresh game, a new game, where they need to excel at. In terms of stage of startups, again, we have mostly idea to prototyping stage startups, but advanced stage startups also do come to us, and I'll get into some details. Our strength is necessarily the faculty connect that we are able to provide to the startups. So one of the startups which is working with a faculty, they need mentoring help, so they convert into an incubating company. The faculty becomes a consultant to the company, and they are doing great work together. The faculty is helping the startup develop the product better. In another case, we had a faculty which eventually became a co-founder. The startup found so much value that they part-time hired the faculty as technical mentor, and he holds equity in the company in that sense. We have had faculty-led startups as well. So a couple of them are active right now as well. And this faculty-led startup, is focused on Himalayan-based solutions, which is particularly disaster management. So we have landslides in the hill, and we have a startup by faculty members of IIT Mandi. Two of them teamed up with their research scholars to build an alert system for sort of preventing, alerting people around in the area about any landslides happening. We do have a special focus, a soft corner for people working on solutions meant for problems in Himalayan region, in hilly areas, and about 30 to 40% of the current solutions being built, or that have been built in Catalyst till now, they have been focused on these areas. Uh, there have been, in terms of background of founders, yes, tech founders, that's an essential for any tech startup to be built. So we see mostly tech background startups. We do see a lot of applications from the northern region. About, I would say, 60-65% applications are from Delhi and north. But we do see a lot of attraction from Gujarat, West Bengal, even Bangalore. One of our funded company is, they are from Bangalore, Kerala, Chennai. We've one or two startups each from these areas as well. And the primary pull for them is the expertise that the faculty brings in for them at IIT Mandi. And we try to do not many startups. Our aim is to do 50 startups a year, but provide them high touch support. We do not see ourselves as a traditional incubator where hand out space, rent out space, startup comes in, leaves, and there are shared services. That model is working fine, but we have to, being in a different geography, we come with different strengths and opportunities as well. So we spun this into an opportunity for startups to engage more with the intellectual prowess that is available at IIT Mandi. That is a brief. We get people who are ex IIM, IIT, those kind of people. We also get people from regional. We have grassroots innovators as well. They are doing great work. So from electric vehicles to cancer diagnosis, we have a range of startups, and our portfolio would be dominated with, I would say, agrotech, clean tech, biotech. We have some startups in education, consumer tech. These are the areas where the startups come from as well. Yeah.
Excellent. Great. Thank you so much. I think this is very insightful. Last question from my side, which I think will entail a longish answer from all of you before we open it up for Q&A, is your take on the current crisis situation, COVID-19. It's been more than 75 days plus. The whole ecosystem has been progressing despite challenges. This is the new normal. How do you see this particular landscape evolving post COVID-19? And why do you think it's important for startups now more than ever to leverage the incubation centers in the coming months and particularly in 2020? Ramesh sir, beginning with you.
So I think, definitely unprecedented times. More than anything else, I think the uncertainty, the FUD is the biggest problem. I'm one of those probably relative minority that believes the situation is not nowhere near as bad as it is kind of made out to be, especially now, based on what we know now. But regardless, I think the FUD is the biggest problem. But thankfully, it's just opening up. So we went on an overdrive. We said like the worst thing that can happen to a startup, especially early stage startup, is like inaction. And like, so we said like we will go on an overdrive. So we did many things we've still been doing since it started. Like it just took us a few days to kind of snap out of the kind of the stunned days. But then like, we quickly started doing things. And one of the things we did was like we were IIIT as an institute, and me personally, we are part of a few task forces around COVID. Trying to look at technology, looking at startups, and looking at some. So we leveraged that avenue that we had and took out a big campaign to find startups that were doing anything in COVID or even could do something in COVID. Meaning based on they might obviously would not have been built to do something for COVID, but the product could be modified to solve the COVID problem. And so that uncovered some very good. We got a company through CSR that was giving 25 lakh grant, and we could fund up to 8 startups, but unfortunately we only could find 4 that the company was okay with. But anyway, so we took out a campaign, uncovered some 9 or 10 good startups, most of which were in other spaces. They just had an opportunity in COVID by modifying some part of what they were doing. And we supported that. And then like we took out another campaign called Unpitch, where we're looking at different stage of startups, early stage, kind of like angel stage and even post-angel stage, and then offered. So we had almost 180 startups applied for that. We did that jointly with Head Start. And then we've been doing startup interviews, all kinds of stuff, webinars, usual stuff, but a little bit more than that. And we started some micro accelerators in this period. So what we are seeing is like, and we did a survey end of April, 6 into the lockdown, 5-6 weeks. We were very surprised that we had about 50 respondents, 50 startups that responded to survey from our network. So most of them either currently still early stage or they were early stage, like maybe 1 or 2 years back. And to our pleasant surprise, we found almost 30%, 35% that said they were looking at outlook that is better now than it was like 2 months before the lockdown. So there must be in some spaces where they see that they are enabling remote work, or they're enabling like kind of any kind of remote activity, retail or any of that, or they're in the mid space and they're seeing some better prospects. So it was a very pleasant surprise. I mean, we were expecting to see kind of anything but that. 30%, 70% said it is almost at least business as usual. They're not seeing any particular downtick. But this was like as a 6 weeks into the lockdown. We just started the second iteration of the survey. We hope to get some data, better data in the next few days. So startups are struggling. 2 months, we gave 50%, we waived off 50% of the incubation fees. We had a hike that was announced almost a year back in the fees. So we deferred that by 6 months. So that was supposed to be effective April, and we deferred that by 6 months. And like we arranged bridge fund of 5 lakhs for startups that could convince a panel of investors that they're onto something good. We offer an unconditional bridge fund, which was as a CDD. And so we did everything we could think of. I'm not sure if we did everything we could, but at least whatever we could think of, we did try within our limited financial avenues. Startups of all, I mean, nice to see startups that are quite into, I mean, though they're not working, we're finally open now, but we still have only maybe about a fourth of the startups coming to the incubator to work. Most of them still playing it safe, working from home. But we have seen like in the conversations we have talked to, we've done a startup interview series called Fire Up. And like me and one other person anchored those conversations, and most of it I myself did. So I have a first person pulse of about 50 startups that we've talked to in this interview series in the last 2.5 months. And at least half of them are visibly upbeat. So very present. I mean, it must be coincidental. I'm sure that can't be said for all startups. It must just be a coincidental that domains they are operating in and the stage they found some opportunities. But it was very heartening to see, regardless of their prospects, they definitely seemed upbeat. So I think that was a fantastic attitude to have. So on the whole, I think it is good. Like somebody said, such times are the ones that weed out those that are not cut out for it. So I'm sure, like, regardless of how many are standing, say, whenever we come out of it completely in the next 3 to 6 months, whoever is standing, I'm sure is of a different breed.
Great, great. Thank you, Ramesh sir. Vijay sir, your
Uh,
thoughts?
yeah. So as COVID-19, as Ramesh said, it's really an unprecedented. We never seen such a situation. Naturally, there were a lot of challenges in for all startups. But startups, one fundamental philosophy that they see is every challenge as an opportunity. So that's what most of our startups looked at it, and they looked at it is how can we utilize this couple of months where we are going to get into the lockdown and we may not be using incubation facilities or incubation support, but we could continue doing mentoring over the online. We could continue providing them whatever industry connects and support they needed. Almost 8 of our startups have pivoted solutions, additional solutions for the COVID-19. So, and some of them are almost ready and I have started pushing those solutions in the market. As I talked about the drone company, the AI software drone, they have already used their software in their platform in Gujarat and in even in Bangalore. So that's how they have already pushed it. One of the startup already has he was in supply chain management solution, so they started using their solution to transport the blood samples effectively and with a quality. So each one of them have thought through a way to get over this COVID crisis or situation. Going forward, I do see a lot of startups will look at solutions for this short term as well as long term. Also, I do see that this will bring out new opportunities like healthcare, supply chain, even you talk about collaboration. Now, a lot of continuation of the digital collaboration or online collaboration will continue to be there, and it will continue to be there for maybe next 1 year or so, or more than that. And once you get used to it, people will continue to think twice whether do I need to really travel or can I just take a Webex call or a Zoom call or and manage that. So such collaborative softwares or collaborative applications will come up. So there is a play for all the startups. Another thing is what has happened, especially when you think about India. We know the situation of migrants, which have moved from all big cities to the tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities. So what it's going to bring out is naturally they will start thinking as even though very small way, but they will start thinking as to how can we have our own ideas converted to the businesses. So there is a certainly I see a lot of entrepreneurship related activities picking up in all the tier 2 and tier 3 cities as well. Okay, what they call sometimes called as a forced entrepreneurship, like since the industry will have a lesser jobs and the opportunities will be less in the industry, lot of students as well as the entrepreneurs who have entrepreneurial mind will always start thinking can I do something on my own, and that will spur a lot of growth for such startups. I certainly see, I don't think this will be a dampening effect, but I think it will really bring out some great ideas in the coming future.
Great. Thanks for sharing those insights. Dr. Puran Singh, your final thoughts on the same?
Thanks, Shashank. So I'll just continue the thread from Vijay sir. I think agreed. It was unprecedented, and I think a lot of startups are affected. But there are other startups which have seen opportunities as well. Again, health tech and a new sector. Work from home tech, digitizing everything. I think people would have become more innovative, at least in their thinking, if they're not thinking about putting those ideas to work. But at least people have thought that how do I do this thing faster, better, in a cleaner way. So naturally innovation would have come to people's mind, and many people are trying to start their own things. They have their own ideas. And what I'm going to address now is what is the role that incubators will have in these times, with people, moving back. So a lot of people would have come back to Himachal, for example. How is IIT Mandi Catalyst going to do something for them, or respectively other incubators? I think the incubators, the role that they play, the crucial role that they play is in terms of building the market for the startup. Startup is essentially trying to get an idea converted into a product, but he may not have enough resources. So incubators, bridge that gap before you can talk to the customer. You need some credibility, and you are somebody who's just either lost your job or you can't go to work because of the whole thing, and now you're trying to think fresh. You're not experienced in this domain. You haven't read about this thing, how to do. So this gap, skill gap, is something that the incubator can help startups with. How to start up, how to build lean startup, how do you think about your initial versions of the product, how do you think about your target market, and so on. The incubators can step up and build, bring more opportunities to validate the ideas for these startups. You have already ecosystem in the incubator. A startup can quickly just bounce their ideas off the mentors that that are available in the incubators, and get those ideas validated. You have an quick development, product development infrastructure ready. So instead of putting your money, thinking about setting up your own unit or an office or hiring people, doing all of that, you approach an incubator, because everything, all those problems have already been solved. Just build up on that. So that's another place where incubators will help startups post COVID. Many startups have made pivots, and incubators are also very well connected, not only with the investors, which of course is one major benefit to the startups, but also the governments, also with the industry partners, corporate partners. There are a large number of faculty that work with industry who are already solving some of the problems that you may be thinking that, okay, I want to try and solve that. Try to jump onto that wagon rather than reinventing the wheel. So I think in these uncertain times, innovation sector as a whole is going to see a lot of traction. A lot of people are going to come up that I want to do this, that, and incubators will play a great role in next 1 year, 2 years, in bringing these ideas to some shape and form closer to the commercialization, or validating the prospects that these ideas may have. Also a lot of local opportunities, by the way, in respective places, and also matchmaking. A lot of matchmaking, marketplaces need to be created, because going forward there will be concern about health. A local laborer, migrant laborer, needs to find a job. As small solution as that is going to be very powerful going forward. So a lot of local solutions need to be built as well. Supply chain, agriculture supply chain, a problem which has been attempted at, people have tried to solve it, hasn't happened. Now is the time when all the interested parties do need a solution for this. Sectors like such sectors have opened up, will be more receptive to such solutions, which earlier were probably more closed. That there is a bigger Mandi. One typical example I would give you is, we are in a rural area. We have people around with small marginal farms. They produce their vegetables, they sell it to the Mandi in the town, and then all those vegetables get transported back to the campus. So imagine that loop, creating additional costs. So such solutions would not have seen traction before, because of whatever reasons, small ticket size, people not interested in that scale. But now there will be entrepreneurs at who would be willing to solve these grassroots problems at smaller scale, at hyper local level. So I think all those opportunities will build stronger grassroots for different kinds of industries, different kinds of problems, and the solutions thereof.
Great. I think great examples. The one on the agri-tech side is definitely applicable. The other interesting point is all the folks and the founders who move back to their hometowns, which could be tier 2, tier 3 cities. I think that example you gave of utilizing incubation centers as office spaces rather than spending on office. I think that's a great one as a beginning point. And then utilizing the infrastructure which is available at these incubation centers. So I think great points, Dr. Puran Singh. Thank you so much. We're running short of time. I see a bunch of questions, but as I browse through them, most of them we've already addressed. There's this one question which is specifically for you, Ramesh sir, but open to Vijay sir as well as Dr. Puran. I'm just bringing it up on the screen. What do you think of the opportunity in food health due to the change brought by COVID? More organic food, home food, less travel.
I think it is. I see. There's time for innovation always. So I know some startups that have started to do early stages still, but putting together do-it-yourself kits, right? For dishes, I know startups have tried this in the past. I met a few myself in Hyderabad. I'm sure the same has happened in other cities, where they were giving a complete packed thing, all ingredients required to make a dish, along with the recipe. And like, so you don't have to go looking for something. It's all packaged, and like it's like buying a ready to eat, but it's ready to cook with ingredients. Now, similar business seems to have come up now. So food is a place where, like, I think it caters to people kind of trying to avoid going out if they can do something, but not just a normal delivery. They do look at it a little differently. So there is opportunity for sure in food. Organic food is like anyway there. I mean, like, I'm not sure if COVID particularly changes organic. Maybe awareness of health is higher, so due to that there may be some increased opportunity for organic. But generally, food, I would think there is home food segment. There is a possibility for innovation. Travel itself, like, I don't know. I mean, the people have tried virtual tourism and such. So I don't know what is possible there yet. But food itself is surely a space, and same with health. But again, like health apps have been around. So I don't know if it's going to be a particularly new opportunity, but well-being probably more than health, like in terms of fitness, not fitness, but more from well-being standpoint. Maybe again, like same thing as organic. Increased awareness might result in people wanting to do things, be a little bit more proactively healthy. But that said, I think any conditions there is opportunity for innovation. If somebody can come up with something new, a different idea, I'm sure that opportunity always exists.
Got it.
So
So I have,
just to add to
yeah,
Ramesh,
please.
I think on
Yeah,
the health side, I do see a telemedicine because we were talking a lot of telemedicine and this thing, and due to COVID situation, actually, a lot of doctors or medical professionals have started giving virtual consulting. I think that area which used to be a taboo so far, like I think will pick up quite a lot, and that will also allow a lot of the experts who could come onto the platform and help any disease going forward, like kind of provide consulting on their diseases and other thing and sickness. I think that will pick
got
up
it.
a quite a bit.
Got it. Great. So, the last question from my side, rather somebody's asked, it's slightly controversial, but I genuinely feel we should answer it. I'm just bringing it onto the screen. Can academic institution-based incubators ever be forward-thinking, or will they always be held by the bureaucratical institution approach? Your thoughts on the same? I know it's, but I think it's worth attempting and answering this question.
Let Dr. Puran Singh go ahead. I will also add to my
Yeah.
thoughts. I have thoughts on that.
So I think that's a very, very valid question. That's the first question that comes to a startup's mind when they start thinking about building the product, starting thinking about their startup idea. Should I go to an academic institution? I have read everything I need to, and that why do I go back? Typically, alumni of the institution, right? I've spent 4 years here. Why do I want to come back? I've seen best of everything that you have to offer. It's a different ball game. And I'm a faculty member at IIT Mandi. I teach and do research full time, and this is an added responsibility that I have. So I see both the worlds. I have the best of the two worlds. I engage with industry people, with the startups very actively through the incubation center, and I also get to teach these people. So why should you come to an incubator? In this scenario is because you don't find people who are genuinely interested in making sure your idea succeeds. We academicians are selfless. We are discoverers. We just want to make sure something is working. Who makes money out of it is not our problem. So that genuinity you will find in academic institutions, all right? And also the network, the credibility that it brings, right? You go to Triple IIT Hyderabad, you go to IIT Mandi, go to any other educational institute that has a name, that has built a reputation for itself over a long period of time. And that is where you're going to get genuine support and interest. Can we move this, big institution to think, more agile, think more, softly about the startup, be less bureaucratic? That's a challenge that we have to solve as practitioners, as incubation managers, or as faculty in charges or CEOs, right? This is something that I've been trying to do at IIT as well. We have to. I remember the first training program that BSc conducted for us, back in 2016, when we were given the incubation center. We had Dr. Bala from VIT. He gave an example. Singh Institute is a large, the academic institute is a large elephant, right? And you have to move that elephant in a thread. You have to make sure thread does not break and the elephant moves as well at the same time in favor of the startup. So it's a tough job that we have. We are trying our best at it. We are a young institution. IIT Mandi is only 10 years old. We have young faculty members with the latest, dynamic research interest in whatever is the latest technology, and that's why you should certainly go to academic institutions. You'll find genuine help that you need there, and also incubators are no longer short of funds either. So you can get the first round of funding before you get to the real big investor that you're looking for.
Great, thank you, Dr. Puran Singh. Anybody with their final thoughts? We're just running out of time.
I just like to add a few thoughts on this. I think the way we run it at Bhau Institute at COEP is we run our institute or incubator fairly independently from the institute. So, like I run it completely and I manage it, and I go to COEP as and when my startups require help, rather than COEP's faculty or somebody imposing any influence of their influence in anything. So I don't think, and we our all our processes and policies and everything is set separately compared to the institute. So I think while we are core part of the institute, I think it is run separately and it is run independently. So I don't think that bureaucracy gets impacted on our. Yeah, at least I have not felt it for last 3 years. Maybe they have given us way independence to us, as well as the another point is lot of incubators which are education, even academic incubators. The incubator managers or the heads of the incubator are from the industry. Like I come from the industry before I got into this particular role. 31 years I was in corporate industry. So naturally, we bring in that kind of flavor to the incubator rather than an academic. And actually, the advantage is we can use the COEP labs, we can use the faculty as and when our startups require. So actually, I see it more as an advantage rather than as a disadvantage.
Great.
I agree. I mean, like even ours, we are not, fortunately, I mean, we are a very autonomous institution. Those started by the government, we're not run by the government. So we don't have at least those procedural trappings that say an IIT might have in terms of the finance. But that said, when we started incubator in 2008, we got somebody who was working in 3M innovation. So she came and she started incubator. First 3 years she ran it. She's even our faculty. Then she moved to do her full-time research, and then we had an alumni of ours who went to INSEAD after that and was working in Nokia. And then he came back and then he ran the incubator for the next 2-3 years. Then we had somebody who came from a technology licensing background, and then he was running for the next 2 years or so before he moved to T-Hub after we started T-Hub as the chief operating officer of T-Hub. And since then, by then I came back and I am from the industry, though I've been teaching in Triple IIT since 2002 as adjunct faculty. Otherwise, I'm from the industry as well, and also been in the startup space for a long time. Our incubator, Triple Incubator, from the time it started, but also I'm one of the founders of Head Start Network and been involved with the startup for quite some time. Though I'm a faculty right now, technically I'm a faculty, but I come from the industry, and we have a good team. We have a good team. So right now we don't have anybody running it. I'm doing it myself, but then we have a good team. So it is possible, but it's up to the individual. I don't think there's any institutional bureaucracy as that will come in the way. It might be very specific to an organization or people. But I think like institutionally, there's enough support available. I mean, all the IITs have demonstrated that for many years now.
Great. Great. Thank you so much. This was a fantastic panel discussion. Great insights from Ramesh Loganathan, Vijay Talele, and Dr. Puran Singh. 100x is looking at investing in the next set of companies, and we'll be closing in our investments by June and July first week. And looking forward to backing some of the companies from Triple IIT, Bhau Institute, and IIT Mandi. Thank you once again, fellow panelists. I really, really appreciate your time and your insights. It was a very, very insightful session, and look forward to hosting you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sure, Shashank. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.